In order for services such as AvePoint's Cloud Backup to recognize all of your different Office 365 objects, you need to configure Dynamic Object Registration scan profiles. To do that, log in to your AvePoint Online Services tenant, and over on the left, under Dynamic Object Registration, click Scan Profiles. Scan profiles come in two varieties: Express Mode and Advanced. An Express Mode profile is great if you don't need to differentiate between different object types such as SharePoint site collections, Exchange Online mailboxes, Office 365 groups, and so on. You just want to be able to see all of the objects so that you can work with them. If you do need to break those objects up though into different buckets, if you do want to have the solution see some objects but not see others, for that you create advanced profiles. To do that, we click Create at the top, and then we're going to select Advanced. Before I proceed, let me just note that in order to use advanced mode on any of the object types that are available to you, you have to make sure that none of those object types are currently being targeted by an express mode plan. To do that, we go back out to Scan Profiles. If an express mode profile is running, we can select it and then we can click Edit up at the top to see what it's targeting. You can see I've got it targeting several of the object types for Office 365, but not my Exchange Online mailboxes. For that, I'm going to create an advanced mode profile. So once I select advanced mode, down at the bottom, again, we can click through the different object type tabs up at the top. Please note that teams are essentially grouped under Office 365 groups here. In our case though, we're going to go to mailboxes, and then down at the bottom, scan objects according to a dynamic rule, or scan all objects and place them in one container. All objects means it would find every Office 365 mailbox and then let you put it into a container of your choosing. Containers are visible in tools like Cloud Backup and Cloud Management. In this case though, I'm going to put some rules together, so we'll leave it set to dynamic rule, and I'll click New Container, and we'll give that container a name. We then name the rule, and below that, we target metadata to determine what gets captured and cataloged within this particular container. So in this case, I'm going to go with department. You can see our comparison operators here that are available. I'll choose equals and tell it what I want it to look for. I then click on Save, and that saves my rule that will create that container. What if something doesn't match? What do you want to do with it? Do not add them. That means that anything in this example that is not from someone who is in the sales department would simply not be included, would not be visible in any of your AOS services. Add them to the system default container, which is called default mailbox. So sales would have its own mailbox container to be targetable, to be selectable in AOS services. Or you could have it add them to a custom container, so everything outside of sales would still be in a container, but of a custom name that you would get to decide. In this example, I'm going to leave the default setting in place, and we can click Next if we're done. Please note that you could click New Container to continue to build rules and other containers. Down at the bottom, we click Next. We scroll down and we can use either a service account or an app profile previously configured. In this case, I'm going to use this service account that's available to me. If you have multiple services accounts, you can pick and choose between them. If one is already attached to a dynamic object registration profile, you should pick something different. How often do we want this to actually run? You can also run a one-time registration. This is if you had something that you misconfigured in your profile. You go back in, you change that. Let's say you were targeting group instead of department as an example, and you realize after it runs for the first time that there's no objects that it found because you were targeting the incorrect metadata. Come in, fix it, and then choose Start a One-Time Registration. In this case though, since we're running this now brand new, I'm going to put it on a schedule, and what this will do is it will make sure that when this runs, daily is your only option right here, and then you can choose when throughout the day on 24-hour time you want it to run. that it will go out and it will scan Office 365. That way, if we added a new mailbox that is now in line with this particular profile, it'll make sure that it includes it and it begins to show up in your AOS services. Remove the objects from existing containers if they no longer match the container's rules. Again, since this is the first time I'm doing this, that is not a concern. And I'll down to bottom click Finish. It tells me this was successfully created. And now if I go over and click on Scan Profiles on the left, we can see here is our brand new scan profile under advanced mode in place. Thank you for watching this video on how to create dynamic object registration advanced scan profiles.